Hey everyone, this is Nick on Control Nick, and today I'm going to teach you how to create bar charts like a pro. Let's head over to the workbook where I can show you all the step-by-steps. Okay, so we're in the workbook now, and as you can see in the bottom, we have the final product of what we're going to create today. So let's go through the step-by-step of how you can actually create this. So the first thing I want to do is highlight over the area where we want to add in a column chart. So I'm going to highlight from Q1 all the way through 102, which is in cell P32. And all you need to do to create a bar chart is go into Insert, and then you select the Insert Column or Bar Chart option. And then we're just going to do the first option under 2D column. As you can see, we have the basic bar chart that actually populates. I'm going to replicate what we have in the bottom by adjusting to the size that we want to use. So if I click actually onto our bar chart down at the bottom, I can right click, and one of the last options is Format Chart Area. When I do that, you have three buttons that pop up, and I'm going to do the Size and Properties selection, and then I'm going to select Size. And here you can see the height and the width of the bar chart reference. It is 3 inches height and 8.5 inches width. So now I'm just going to click up at the bar chart above, go into the same area for sizing, and it's already 3 inches, but now we're going to adjust to 8.5. So I'll type that in and click enter. As you can see, now we have the exact same size as the bottom chart. Then I want to make sure that if we're to adjust any columns or row widths, that it doesn't accidentally mess with our height and width. And just so you know what I mean, if I were to, for example, expand this column in I here, you can see that this bar chart is going to adjust with the column sizing, and we don't want to do that. So actually, now that we're already pre-selected under size and properties, let's just go under the properties section now, and you have three different options. What we want is the last option. You don't want the chart to move or adjust with any of the cells that you're using. So that's just a precautionary measure in case you don't want to mess with anything by accident. Perfect. Now we have the size and properties adjusted for. Next thing we want to do is start working with the formatting. So I never like using grid lines. So what I'm going to do is select one of the grid lines in here. You can see once you select, it actually selects all the grid lines, and I'm just going to select backspace to get rid of them. You can also always go to the chart options over to the top right, or the chart elements, and you can deselect there as well. Also, for the axis, since we're going to have values on top of each chart, we don't need an axis over to the left. So I'm actually going to just select those and select backspace as well. Lastly, let's not use the series that we have here. Let's just delete the series because the title is going to give you some info on what we're looking at, which is 2024 versus 2025. Now let's adjust the title. We're going to keep the title in here, but I'm just going to highlight over, and now we can easily type in what title we want to use. So we want to do A24 versus A25, and this is travel costs, and it is in 1,000 USD or US dollars. Once we have that, we're just going to adjust the formatting of the title as well. So it's always looking smooth and clean. I always use Arial. I always use a dark teal font color. Let's first go under Home, and we're just going to type in the font color we want and select Enter. And we also want the font color to be this dark teal. Also, we have it bold at the bottom, so let's make it bold. And an easy way to check also the font size using the reference chart we have below is just to click on it, and under the Home tab, it's going to show you exactly the sizing. So it said 8 plus. I'm just going to re-click again, as you can see, because there's two different sizes in here. The 1,000 USD is a little bit smaller, and the main text is a little bit larger. But if I hover over this text, you'll see it's 14 size, and if I hover over the 1,000 USD, it's 8. So we have 14 and 8, and that's what we want to stick with. So it's already using 14, but let's make this 1,000 USD as 8 size. And we're going to actually unbold it and make it italicized instead. Perfect. Now the header is matching. Next, you want to make sure that the axis titles pop a little bit more. As you can see, the default is much smaller than what we have below. So let's click below just to see the sizing. It's 16, it's bold, it's Arial, and again, it's that dark teal font color. So I'm going to do the same thing here. So we're going to do Arial, 16, bold, and dark teal. As simple as that, you now have the same color coding. Now you'll notice that it's different sizing in the height of the axis, and that's because below I adjusted the size of the bars because I wanted to make some space for this nice pro trick that we'll do at the end of the video, which is showing growth percentages. As you can see, when I click inside the bar chart, you can adjust the height and the width if you'd like, and that's what we're going to do here. So we're going to actually keep the width the exact same. I'm going to click in at the top, and then I'll just adjust the height so it is relatively similar to the bar below. And I think that's actually fine that we have there. Nextly, let's adjust the colors. So typically I always have a specific color that I use for the prior year, and I always use my primary color for the current year we're comparing to. So this orange, when you click on it, the format chart is going to pop up, and we want to fill this color with a solid color, and we're going to make it that dark teal. Then if we click on the 2024 bar charts, we can then select solid fill again, and let's make it this brown color here. You can see, then it populates. Again, you can use whatever colors you like. If you are working for a company that has some pre-designed colors, make sure to use those. Nextly, we want to adjust the width of the bars. So if I click at the bottom, you'll notice that this third option is pre-selected, which is under series options. And what we want to adjust is the series overlap and the gap width. And you can see how that looks in just a moment. So we have series overlap as 0%, gap width as 108. So let's adjust that. I'm going to click up in the 2024 column just once, and I'm going to double click to change this to 0%. You can see that makes the bars next to each other. And then the gap width, which is actually just the width of the bars, I'm going to make that 108. Now, interestingly enough, even though they are right on top of each other, you'll notice the bottom example actually has some gaps still between. That's because I've added borders. I'd like to just add that border for a little bit of cleanliness. You don't need to use this. You could just adjust the width so they don't overlap or not right next to each other. It's completely up to you. But I'm just going to add a border and I'll show you how to do that. So I'll select 2024, just one of these columns. And then I'm going to go over to the fill and line option. And then there's a border selection you can use. I'm going to do a solid line. It pre-defaults as white. And you'll see you have an option to change the width of the border line. It's defaulted as 0.75, and I'm just going to double that. So let's make it 1.5. I'm going to do the same thing for the 2025 columns as well. So go back here. Under border, you can select solid line, defaults as white, and let's change it to 1.5. Perfect. You have the exact same match now as you do as the bottom charts. Now let's add some values to the bars. Again, selecting 2024 first, and actually we go over to chart elements and you can see you have data labels. All you do is select that data label and it'll populate above for you. Same thing for 2025. I'm just going to go back, select data labels, boom, you have it right there. Now let's add in the formatting, and also we're going to spice it up a little bit by also adding in a text adjustment. As you can see, we have K there representing thousands, and that's what we want to add in now. But firstly, let's make sure the font and formatting matches. So if I select down here, you'll notice it's Arial 12 bold, and again that dark teal. So we're going to do it for both years up here. I'm going to select one. I'm going to do Arial 12 bold dark teal. We're going to do it again. Arial 12 bold and dark teal. Perfect. Now we need to add in the letter there. So the easy way to do that is we already have 2025 columns pre-selected up here. All you need to do is still underneath where you have these label options, the bottom is number. Now you have a down here in category, and we want to change that category not from general, but now number instead. And you'll see it's going to now show with 2 decimals, and we don't need to do that. So you can easily change the decimal places to 0 and then enter. And then it'll default a format code. And the easy way to add in the lettering is just at the end of this format code, you type in the letter K and add. Simple trick, and now you have it showing as thousands without having all the decimal places. So it just adds some extra spatial awareness into your chart. Let's do the same thing for 2024. I'm just going to select one of the data labels for 2024. We're going to go and change it to number. I'm going to change it to 0 decimals, and then under format code, add the K, and we're good to go. Now, the last element is adding in the growth percentages. This is where it gets tricky, but this is also when what's going to show your Excel prowess and how comfortable you are with using Excel like a pro. What we're going to do is go into Insert. Under Shapes, we're going to add in a text box. Make sure you already have the chart pre-selected so that when you add in the text box and you drag it around, you can see it doesn't go further than the chart area. So you just want to make sure that it's always updating in this chart area. Now, what we want to do is we want to make sure that this text box references one of the growth percentages. So we're in Q1, which means that we want the growth percentage down in our array or data array to match 10%. So what you want to do is select into the formula bar while you have this text box selected, and we're going to do equal sign, and it's going to equal this percentage. When I select enter, you'll notice that 10% pops up. Now it's just about the formatting. And this does get a little bit tricky, so just practice a bit more. We'll do it a couple of times here just so you get a little more comfortable with it. So the first thing we're going to do is just under home, we're going to make this completely centered. So we're going to make a middle alignment there and then also a center alignment. So everything should be in the center. Let's do that one more time. There we go. Again, it's going to be a little tricky. Sometimes you need to click out of the chart and then click back in. Excel is not your best friend when it comes to this trick here, but once you master it, it seriously improves your overall visuals, as you can see in the bottom here. So now we're just going to adjust the line width a little bit. So I'm going to make it that size, and let's make it expand to Q1's total bars, like that. And again, as you can see, I'm playing around with it a little bit because it is a bit finicky. Now let's adjust the formatting so it's the same. The bottom, I have Arial 12, and I'm assuming this dark teal. Yes, so we're going to do the same thing. We already have Arial. Let's just make it a little bit larger at 12. And we have the dark teal going. And now we want to also add in a bold line, similar to the bottom chart. So you already have the format shape option pre-selected here because we haven't gotten rid of it. Under line, let's make it a solid line. And it's actually defaulting as the dark teal. So Excel is a little bit smarter there and it knows that we're going to be using that. Now we have our first growth percentage. And what's really cool about this is that it's dynamic now in this text box. So under the Q1 data array down here, let's say change 2025 Q1 to 120 rather than 110. When I click enter, you'll notice that we increase the bar in 2025 and also the growth percentage updates. That's a really cool extra feature. Just going to go back. Now we rinse and repeat this process. So I'm just going to click on this text array. I'm going to Control C to copy, Control V. It brings you still up here. Oh, you can see, again, it is a little tricky to work with, but we're working for the long term, meaning it'll always update for us once we have it set. I'm just going to align this as best as I can. And now I'm going to click back into the formula bar, equal sign, and minus 3%. Perfect. Let's click out and click back in, and that just resets where we can start doing the filtering again. And we're going to make this 12 dark teal. Moving that around, you do have to be pretty precise when it comes to moving around these text boxes. I'm just going to do this for the next two. Let me just fast forward real quick while we get that done. All right, so now we have all of the growth percentages added in, and the last piece is just adding in a border so that when you copy and paste this graph into a PowerPoint slide, for example, it looks really clean. So all you do is click on the outskirts of the graph, so somewhere around here, and then underneath this format chart area, we're going to make a solid line border, and it's going to be a dark teal. So now you have a professional looking graph. Once you start to practice with it, it doesn't take very long to do. Keep playing around, especially with these text boxes because they are a little bit tricky. One thing I wanted to actually save for the end is it's really important that your legend is always super clear. If you remember, I actually deleted the legend, and that's because I actually like to add a little bit of flair as well when I'm working within Excel. So it'll be a nice, cool extra trick so that people can clearly see what is part of the legend. And so you know what bar means what year. Easiest thing to do, which isn't showing down here, is I'm actually going to click into the title and I'm actually going to edit A24 by just highlighting over there. And then I'm actually going to select the font color of the 2024 columns, which is this brown. As simple as that. Then it's without taking space for the legend, very easy to see what A24 represents in the bar chart versus 825. All right, that was actually it for today's video. If you thought it helped, then I would always appreciate a like and subscribe, and consider selecting either of the two videos popping up here. One will be about creating line charts for professionals, and the other is general Excel formatting for professionals. Thanks so much for tuning in and have a great day.